Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I want to talk about garden challenges for this new year, so 2021. I was reading an article where the gardening celebrities were predicting the challenges for 2021, so I want to talk about this. But before I start, if you are new here, please consider subscribing. I upload videos weekly and the content is about nature, gardens, garden design and gardening. So if this is something that you are interested in, do consider subscribing, as I said. And if you do like the video, please also hit the like button. So what are the challenges in 2021? So when the first lockdown hit us in 2020, our gardens, the green spaces, nature, became a real savior for all of us. So people were getting out there in the nature, going for walks. They started gardening. Many of them were new to this area. And people also were starting to look after their house plants more, or they were getting new ones. Amazing change, right? But now let's see what our gardening heroes are predicting for this year, 2021. The beloved Montedon doesn't need any introduction, right? He is the presenter of Gardener's World and also a lot of different shows where he offers his advice. And so what does he have to say about the last year and also about what he thinks the challenges for 2021 will be? So Montedon says, on a very basic level, the challenge is the space. And if you read the article further, you'll see that Montedon is basically talking about the difference between when he was younger, so when he was about 30 years old and he already had experience with his allotment, and also he already had a house in the garden, so he had the space to truly show his passion and look after plants and gardens and get growing. But what he's talking about is basically nowadays the young people don't really have that opportunity. They do not own houses or allotments, and to him this is the biggest problem. He talks about the fact that the young people, according to him, do have the desire to change the world, but they don't actually have the tools to do it. So the space, the gardens, the green spaces. And he also mentions climate change and the fact that this is also one of the biggest challenges for 2021 when it comes to gardening and gardens. And do you want to know my opinion? My opinion is that I always say, where there is a will, there is a way. So although young people might not have the spaces to grow and pursue their passion in growing, if they do have it, there is loads of other ways that you can be growing plants. You can be looking after your little green space, whether that is your windowsill in a kitchen or wherever you have the most light. But there are also a lot of opportunities these days. There's loads of different options like hydroponics, for example, or growing in a small space under artificial light if you do not have actual daylight or a lot of light in your apartment or your house. It could even be one orchid on your windowsill that you look after. It will bring beauty to your life. It will give you something to look after, so it will give you some sort of meaning in your life as well. And without even knowing, it will positively affect you. And this is not to be, negative. Quite on the contrary, I do want to encourage people to, do garden, do grow, even in a small scale. That makes a difference as well. And also when it comes to houses, I personally have quite a few people that recently did acquire a house or a new flat. They're the first time homeowners. And although there is a desire to, beautify their space and their outdoor spaces, there is a desire to, have a nice garden so they'll be able to spend more time outside. But the truth is that many times their finances are limited, so they already spent a lot of money on the house, a lot of their savings, they got mortgage. And truthfully, they do want to start with the indoors first. In the end, this is the space they will use the most. So that is their priority. They want to get, the furniture they need. They want to, paint the house, decorate the house first before they start going outdoors and getting new plants and getting their garden done, because it is quite expensive. So they might get, a couple of new plants here and there, and that is amazing too. So I think that is the challenge for 2021 when it comes to gardens as well, or one of them. So I definitely would love to see more people getting excited about protecting our environment, greening up their spaces, because even if you get just one plant, that is better than nothing. As Michael Jackson says, make that change. The next one up in the article that is expressing his opinion about the predictions for 2021 is Alan Marsh. And again, I don't have to say anymore. His name is a synonym of garden and garden design. Personally, he was the person that I related the most when I started being engaged with gardens and the garden design as a trade. So let's have a look what he says. One good thing that did come out of 2020 was the realization that gardens had an enormous part to play in not only preserving the sanity of the nation, but also in providing food. And indeed, I couldn't agree more. Personally, when the lockdown and the virus came in back in March 2020, whenever I went to a supermarket or a shop, there was almost no seeds, no soil left, and actually it made me smile. It's very strange because that meant that obviously there was less left for me, but I didn't mind that, just the fact that people started to be more engaged, more interested in growing, made my heart sing actually. I was glad that people found some sort of meaning and hope in growing plants, which not only affects obviously their health, but also their well-being as a whole, their mental health and their sanity, and obviously it provided all those benefits that plants and nature bring to us. And the only problem back then was that nurseries and garden centers were actually forced, like many other businesses, to close down, and so there was shortage of plants and of growing medium as well. And also when you were trying to obviously book online, order your plants online, it took quite a long time to actually get what you wanted, get your order in. So I really applaud Alan for going out there, expressing his voice in reopening garden centers, because they were really essential to our well-being. And I don't know if you knew this, but garden industry actually brings about 24 billion pounds in the GDP every year, and that is a huge amount. That obviously boosts up our economy, and that was the best thing they could have done. So I really hope that we learned from our mistakes from 2020, and we will be maybe more prepared, more kind of on it when it comes to ordering your seeds, having the soil that you will actually need when it comes to planting, and also that the nurseries and garden centers, plants people will also be more prepared and have the stock in, and it will be much easier to order. And the other thing might be Brexit. So Alan is actually talking about whether they might be lorries stuck at the borders with a lot of plants inside, getting dried because no one is going to water them. And yes, there was a challenge at the beginning of the year. Yeah, lorries were stuck at the borders. because there was a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of new restrictions. But hopefully that is now in the past, and it might take a little bit longer. Maybe it is busier, but I don't think there will be any difficulties in nurseries getting plants in. And just from my experience, because I've already been to a few garden centers to look around to see what plants they have, and I was also getting something for myself, I did notice that the prices went up a little bit. So is this a knock-on effect of Brexit? God knows. So what does Michael Perry, or the Plant Geek, and Ellen Murray, who are the co-hosts of the Plant-Based podcast, and also quite big influencers, social media influencers nowadays, what do they have to say about the gardening challenges in 2021? This year has been a challenging yet an enlightening year for horticulture. While supply had its own challenges, interest in growing reached a peak. So again, I know the people that were really excited about seeing the change of people becoming more green-fingered. And I like that they are staying positive as well. They do want to see more of this change in 2021 as well. And again, the only thing they are worried about further down in the article is the availability of plants. And they say they would like to see more flowering house plants, people growing their own food, and the kind of homegrown harvest becoming a norm. And I really agree with this, because I would love for people to kind of be more connected with nature, growing their own food, so they see how everything is grown. The kids can see that as well, and kind of be like our parents or grandparents used to be, you know, they were growing their own stuff. So we grown up on very healthy fruit and vegetables, and there was always something there. You could just go in a garden, grab your own, pick up an apple from a tree, which is like the most amazing thing. I don't know where gardens and gardening came out of fashion, and I would really like to see it becoming more and more popular. And it's really nice to see it actually already that a lot of people out there are growing. They're growing their own food as well, and they're also sharing it on social media, their failures and also their success. And so I really have to say, I do admire these two guys for all the work they're doing on the social media platforms to get younger and younger people more and more excited about plants. So well done, guys. Okay, Lucy Start, aka She Grows Veg, again a huge influencer on Instagram, says, when the first lockdown struck, suddenly the country found itself housebound with little to do, and the garden, balcony or resident houseplant family quickly became the perfect way to pass the time. Again, another person that I applaud for trying to get people, especially young people, growing more in gardening. And she says the greatest challenge facing the gardening world in 2021 is to turn the sudden influx of gardening newbies into long-term converts. And I don't have much to add to this. I completely agree, and I do believe that there is more and more people actually growing, more and more people sharing what they're doing on social media platforms, and also more and more companies that are being innovative and coming out with newer and newer ways of growing, even in smaller and smaller spaces. Right, next we have Chris Collins, who is part of the charity called Garden Organic, and he says, looking back, suddenly I had all this time for walks, looking at plants, and tons of time on the allotment. I've never eaten so well. And I can relate to Chris so much. I know that 2020 and the whole COVID situation is awful. You know, we've been restricted, people have died and been sick, and I don't want to diminish this, but for me personally, it was really time to reflect, time to spend more time with myself, more time in garden, pursue my passion and learn more as well. More time for reading, definitely, and more time of actual hands-on experience in growing different plants and different, vegetables, for example. So I am very grateful for this time spent doing what I love, and I'm very pleased as well that people did find this time and space to do the same, to come closer to nature, maybe find a new passion and grow a tomato or two for their own cooking. And what Chris thinks is the biggest challenge of 2021 is getting people to garden more organically. And I could not agree more with this. I really believe that we need to kind of educate ourselves and understand why it is better to use organic matter and garden organically and being more close and in tune with nature. Because using pesticides, herbicides is not really good for us. It's poisoning our soil, which means that it is poisoning us in the end. So yeah, we do need to protect nature and the wildlife. So that is also my biggest challenge, to learn more and more how I can do this organically and do it the right way. But because you might get a plant, but as long as you are actually using pesticides, for example, it's not very environmentally friendly. So it kind of knocks off the good benefits of gardening. Okay, then we have Frances Tophill, who is again the presenter of Gardener's World and Revive Your Garden as well. And Frances says, people have got more into gardening, especially growing their own food. But on a broader scale, people have become so much more aware of environmental issues and sustainability and a kind of perspective on the world from COVID. And Frances is yet another one that is worried about the supply in 2021 and also about sustainability. And again, I couldn't agree more, because sustainability is very important, I think. We need to understand how these little choices we make, and we think it's not really a big deal, but they really affect us on a big scale. So things like using plastic pots where you can replace them with either recycled plastic or core pots, or even terracotta pots. That would be much better for the environment. Then also getting plants internationally, because the import of the plants and anything garden related from all over the world obviously does leave a huge carbon footprint. So growing kind of more locally and plants that are native for UK will be more and more important. And a huge thing is growing with peat-free soil. It's very important that we educate ourselves on the subject of peat and what it is and how it affects our environment and our gardens. And there is a lot of different options for peat-free compost, and I know they are a little bit more expensive. And I think we really have to understand that although we spend a little bit more on the peat-free compost, it is much better for us and for the environment in the long run. And the last one to say her opinion about the challenges in 2021 is Pipa Greenwood. And Pipa Greenwood is an expert of growing your own, and also she regularly appears on Gardener's Question Time. And Pipa Greenwood says, if you can say that COVID-19 has an upside, for me it was that so many people discovered gardening for the first time, and many refound it after a long break. It's up to all of us who are already hooked to ensure that we pass on help, hints, tips and inspiration at every opportunity. And yes, indeed, it is our duty, people that are more experienced in this field, to pass on your experience, pass on any tips, tricks, on how you could help someone who is a novice in gardening and just starting out now or recently. And Pipa is also concerned about the effect of the exit of UK from the European Union, and the fact that the prices will go up and also the availability of plants might be affected. And yes, I've seen it myself. Unfortunately, companies seem have to take advantage of the Brexit, obviously, and put the prices a little bit higher. But in the end, this should not discourage or stop us from growing, because it brings us a lot of benefits. Whether this is a better food for us, or more beauty around us, or just kind of a hope from the whole growing process. And to me, at least, this feeling is priceless. So I think that's all I wanted to say about this Gardening Challenge 2021 topic. The article is available to read. Do check it out, it is quite interesting. I will put the link down in the description as well. And I really hope it was helpful. I hope you will be leaving this video with a feeling of encouragement and positive vibes, and the urge to go and get growing again this year. And also that you will kind of rethink the way you are actually gardening, so gardening more sustainably, and go and get yourself maybe a new houseplant to look after in those cold days when you cannot really do much in the garden. So again, hope you liked this video. If you have, please hit the like button and also subscribe to my channel. As I said, I do bring videos like this every week, so I'm sure you will enjoy it if gardening and garden related topics are what you like. So until next time, see you later.